We're going to talk about Chapter 7, Inferences. Again, I ask that you watch a portion of the video till we get to the practice. Take notes, just like you would in class. And then when we get to a practice, pause the video, do the practice. Make sure that you behave just like you would when you were in class. If you just pretend I'm standing over you, because it's important that you do the exercises so you can understand what we're doing. So we're talking about inferences. It's starting on page 277 of the book. So turn to page 277 in your book and we'll talk about inferences. We talked about those a little bit. We talked about what the difference is between to imply and to infer. When you imply, the speaker is implying, the speaker is giving you clues as to what you need to infer. Inferring is you as a reader are figuring out what it means without having the actual concept spelled out for you. So we're going to look at this a little bit more, okay? What's an inference? Meaning that is suggested rather than directly stated. It's kind of like reading between the lines, okay? Look at your cartoon on page 277. I'm thinking this isn't the best time to try this restaurant. What is the cartoonist implying? They're implying, it says help wanted, chef, dishwasher, and waitstaff. Something's gone down in this restaurant. It might not have been for the better. So that's kind of what you're going to infer from this cartoon, okay? To draw inferences, you need 3 types of information, and you will see this again, okay? Clues from the writer. The writer's going to have to do their part. Your own experience. Remember knowledge integration, and you're trying to determine, put your own experiences in to what you're reading so you understand them better. And logic or common sense. Those are the 3 things you need. Let's look at the check your understanding, 1 and 2 on page 279 and 280. Take a look at 279 and 280. We'll do the first one together, and then you can do the second one on your own. So let's look at 279. Read the following passage and check the 2 inferences that are most firmly based on the information given. Okay? Let's read the paragraph together. Read along with me. A sociology professor wrote on the board, "A woman without her man is nothing." And, with a smile, asked students to punctuate this sentence correctly. The men all wrote, "A woman, comma, without her man, comma, is nothing." However, the women wrote, "A woman, colon, without her, comma, man is nothing." So 2 different inferences there, just changing up the punctuation, okay? So let's look at this. Take a second and see which 2 you think are the inferences from that. I'll just give you a second to do that and then we'll talk about it. Okay, let's look at each one of these. A, the professor was definitely a man. We don't know that. We don't have any evidence to support that. The professor did not believe students could punctuate the words correctly. We have no evidence of that also. But look at C. The professor knew there was more than one way to punctuate the words correctly. Is that an accurate inference? It is. Look at D. The professor is not a good teacher. We have no evidence to support that. And E, gender differences cause students to read and punctuate the professor's words differently. Did they? They did. So the answer to that check your understanding is C and E. Those are the correct inferences. You don't have enough evidence to draw inferences from the other ones. So look at the next page, 280, and read that paragraph and tell me which one of those, there are 3 of those that are good inferences. So take a second, do that, and I'll come back to you in just a minute. Okay. A famous psychology experiment conducted by Dr. John B. Watson demonstrates that people, like animals, can be conditioned, trained to respond in a particular way to certain stimulations. Watson gave an 11-month-old baby named Albert a soft, furry white rat. Each time Albert tried to stroke the rat, Dr. Watson hit a metal bar with a hammer. Before long, Albert was afraid not only of white rats, but also of white rabbits, white dogs, and white fur coats. He even screamed at the sight of a Santa Claus mask. Okay, so what inferences do we draw here? Dr. Watson did not like small children. Does it say anything about that? No. B, before the experiment, Albert was not afraid of white rats. Yeah. C, Albert had been familiar with rats before the experiment. We have no way of knowing that. D, if he had seen a black fur coat, Albert would have screamed. We didn't talk about the color black. E, Albert connected the loud noise of the hammer striking the metal bar with the white rat. He did, yes. And F, Albert was afraid of unexpected loud noises. Evidently he was. He was, because he screamed at the sight of all these white things after that happened. So that was a negative influence for him. So you have 3 inferences you should have drawn from this: B, E, and F. Okay, let's move on. Guidelines for making inferences in reading. Never lose sight of the available information. Don't read into things. You might have said, well, this Dr. Watson didn't like kids because he was doing this to this kid and banging this loud noise, making this loud noise. That doesn't mean he didn't like children. As a matter of fact, he was trying to figure out what drives children, what makes children do what they do, okay? So focus on the facts, not what you think the facts are. Not what you think the facts are, because that's something that can really tie you up. Use your background information and experience to help you in making inferences. The more you know about a subject, the better your inferences will be. Educate yourself. Educate yourself on the facts, not the opinions. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more in another chapter. But educate yourself on the facts, not just the opinions of people. Remember what I said, you may love your Aunt Betty, but that doesn't mean she knows about nuclear physics and can talk on it. Just because you love somebody does not mean what they're saying is accurate. And that's kind of hard for some of us to understand. But make sure that you educate yourself. Remember, I told you, if you blindly believe what you're told, the other person who's telling you this is control of your thoughts, and you need to be in control of it. More effort on your part, but it does make you better informed. Okay? 3, consider the alternatives. Don't just accept the first inference that comes to mind, okay? Consider all the facts of a case and the possible explanations. Don't just look at 2 or 3 things. If you have 6 different items that are something you're considering, don't just look at the first 2. Don't be lazy. Remember, I told you, we're lazy thinkers. We don't want to put thought in things. Make sure that you do put thought in them. It takes effort to be excellent. Make sure you put in the effort. Okay, look at practice 1, pages 281, 284. Read the passages, write the letter of the most logical answer to each question, using the guidelines for making inferences that we just discussed. And if you have some classmates there with you, you can do that. If not, you can do it on your own. But look at 281 to 284. Okay? Read that paragraph, and then in the space provided, you do some different things. Remember, we've talked about main ideas. We've talked about different transition words that give us a hint of what's going on. So read these. You can pause the video, because you're going to need to. Read each one of these carefully, and then answer those questions. Please do this just like you would do in class, because I want you to get this right. I may have you, if we are if we're out of class for a while, may have you take pictures of what you're doing and send it to me. So make sure you're doing it, because it's very easy without me in the room with you for you to not do that. So please pause your video and do these exercises now. Okay, inferences in literature. Nonfiction, factual writing. It's stated directly. Very little colorful or creative writing. Okay, there might be some, but not a whole lot. Look on page 286. 286. Okay? Halfway when it says inferences in literature. The first sentence down underneath that paragraph, the first paragraph under inferences in literature, a man got angry at the person using a cell phone in the theater. That's just factual. The man got mad because someone was using a cell phone in the theater. That is a factual statement. But a novelist or someone who writes creatively might say, Thomas turned to face the laughing red-haired girl sitting behind him in the theater. A vein on his forehead was throbbing. Would you mind very much turning off that cell phone, he hissed. A few of us are here to actually see the movie. So that's a way a more creative person might write it. They're both correct, but the second person, the novelist, draws more of a picture. You draw an inference. Did it say in the second one that Thomas was mad? No, it just told you how he acted when he was mad. So that's how that works. Fiction, creative writing, information is implied. Implied, they don't tell you directly. Verbal pictures that paint a picture, okay? Verbal pictures, the person is writing or speaking something that is descriptive to you, and you have to figure out what they're talking about. Look on page 286. Okay, the very bottom. A farmer is about to kill a small pig, but his daughter objects, so the farmer decides to let his daughter learn for herself that a small pig can be a problem. Okay, and that's from Charlotte's Web. Okay, that's kind of a nonfiction writer might write it that way. Look at the next one, much longer, you notice on 287. Fern, said Mr. Arable, I know more about raising a litter of pigs than you do. A weakling makes trouble. Now run along. But it's unfair, cried Fern. The pig couldn't help being born small, could it? If I had been very small at birth, would you have killed me? Mr. Arable smiled. Certainly not, he said, looking down at his daughter with love. But this is different. A little girl's one thing. A little runty pig is another. I see no difference, replied Fern, still hanging on to the axe. This is the most terrible case of injustice I ever heard of. A queer look came over John Arable's face. He seemed almost ready to cry himself. All right, he said, you go back to the house, and I'll bring the runt when I come in. I'll let you start in on a bottle like a baby. Then you'll see what trouble a pig can be. Okay? So that's much more flowery, a whole lot more information. They were drawing a verbal picture for you. Okay? That's your example. Look at the Check Your Understanding on pages 287 and 288. Look at 287 and 288. Okay? We've already read the passage. That was the one I just read. So see if you can answer these inference questions without the excerpt, without having a clue. It's just 1 through 5. So pause the video, and we're going to have to start another, a different video for this so we can keep the size of the document down when we're uploading it. So once you do this, you can click on the next video.